Welcome to another episode of Best on Tour this week, presented by Best on Tour. I am your co-host, Matt Pangrac, along with Dave Rush from Best on Tour, where we talk about what happened both on and off the water in the bass fishing industry. And Dave, we had probably one of the busiest weeks, both on and off the water in 2025.
Yeah, Matt, what used to be considered the quote-unquote off-season is turning into one of the busiest parts of the year for us and the industry in general.
We'll kick things off with the Bassmaster College bracket that took place at Watauga Lake in Tennessee. This is the tournament where all of the collegiate anglers compete in the national championship. Then they take the top finishing teams and they fish in a bracket style competition to get to one angler who qualifies for the Bassmaster Classic in 2026. And it came down to a battle of University of North Alabama anglers. Trip Berlinski bested Bryce DeMauro with 17-11. He wins the 2026 Classic berth, entries into the 2026 Bassmaster Opens, and a fully rigged Toyota Tundra and Nitro bass boat to fish all of the Opens and that Classic in, representing the University of North Alabama. Caught the majority of his fish this week on a dice and a jig head minnow, Dave. So
yeah,
we now have I think one more angler left before we get to the team series champ, before we get to the final Classic field in 26.
Yeah, filling out that Classic roster for sure. And I got a chance to check out some of that college bracket, and they were doing a variety of things. Some guys up shallow, some guys out deep, a little bit of scoping, a little bit of non-scoping. So overall, a very intriguing Classic college bracket tournament there.
Another field that's really taking shape is the 2025 Toyota Series Championship field that takes place next month on Grand Lake of the Cherokees in Oklahoma. But Lake of the Ozark rounding out that division, a stingy Lake of the Ozarks, but familiar winner there.
Yeah, if you know anything about the Ozarks, you probably heard of the name Travis Fox. He gets it done with a 3-day total of 49 pounds, 10 ounces, taking home $36,639. In the process, says he fished a little bit of deep, a little bit of shallow, but primarily keyed on docks that have been good to him in the past, mixing it up with a VMC HD swim jig, a VMC rugby jig, and a VMC tungsten worm weight with a Zoom brush hog. So some familiar baits there on Lake of the Ozarks, and Travis Fox getting it done there on a stingy Lake of the Ozarks, as you said.
A little bit of a side note there. Randy Blockett went into the final day in 11th place, making that top 25 cut, but his final day weight was disqualified, and he finished in 25th place for violating the no info rule. Once you have made the cut, you cannot converse, talk, or get information from anglers who did also not make that top 25 cut. So Randy Blockett finishing in 25th after that DQ. Let's move on to the NPFL, where we had a two-time winner to close out the regular season of the NPFL. Scott Canterbury gets the second win of the season last week on Logan Martin Lake for a total weight of 41 pounds, 5 ounces. No surprise, the Canterbury relied primarily on a jig to get that done, a 5/16 and a 7/16 Scott Canterbury compact flipping jig. And then as the tournament went on, he switched to a 1/2 ounce Luke Clausen dirty jig to get that win. But there were kind of two races that were going on here, not only for the 100,000 for the first place to close the season out, but also a hotly contested Angler of the Year race in the National Professional Fishing League.
Yes, their closest Angler of the Year race in their short history. Patrick Walters edging out fellow Elite Series pro Kyle Welcher by 1 point to get his first Angler of the Year title, that NPFL Shield. Also of note, 9 out of the top 10 in the AOY points were Elite Series Angler, the only exception being number 6, Jason Burrows.
All right, let's dive into some off the water this past week. The Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, the 25th anniversary of the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame induction ceremony took place on September 25th at Wonders of Wildlife in Springfield, Missouri. 3 inductees into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. Randy Hopper, Craig Lamb, William Shakespeare Jr. were all inducted during that ceremony, which ran in correlation with a silent auction to raise money for the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, which raised over $150,000.
Yeah, definitely a big deal going on there in Springfield. 3 deserving inductees, and always good when people get together and raise money for a good cause. Over $150,000, as you said, raised for the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame and all the good work they do there in Springfield and throughout the country.
You mentioned Springfield, Missouri, home of Bass Pro Shops. That's where the Hall of Fame took place. Big industry news coming out of Springfield, Missouri, and the Bass Pro Shops headquarters, Dave.
Absolutely. White River Marine Bass Pro Shops always staying busy. They have acquired Hobie, bringing back the iconic brand to the United States. They will be manufacturing Hobie in Missouri, bringing it back from Mexico. So big deal there. The Hobie kayaks, eyewear, different things of that nature. If you've been around the fishing industry here lately, you have noticed Hobie has made a good impact. Carl Jacobson being one of their primary sponsored anglers. So Hobie coming back to the U.S. under the umbrella of White River and Bass Pro Shops.
More kind of off the water, on the water news. The number one angler in the world running a different engine moving forward.
Yeah, a little bit of breaking news, Matt. Just coming across the wire here as we were recording. Jacob Wheeler, number one angler in the world, is now a member of Team Suzuki. Wheeler will be running a Suzuki for the foreseeable future moving forward. So a big acquisition signing for Team Suzuki, making huge moves, adding Jacob Wheeler, the number one angler in the world, to the team.
Let's make a smooth transition here and say, speaking of Wheeler, the second Bassmaster EQ tournament of the season to determine the 10 Bassmaster Opens anglers that will move on to the 2026 Bassmaster Elite Series season takes place this week on Wheeler Lake in Decatur, Alabama. Kind of stacking them together with Okeechobee a couple weeks after this. Champlain was a couple weeks ago, so kind of the midway point of the EQ season, something to keep an eye on if you want to get some live on the water coverage over on Bassmaster.com. Become a better angler, get behind the scenes of the top fishing tours, learn the business side of the fishing industry and how to get sponsorships. The Best on Tour newsletter brings you that all once a week, completely free. Sign up at bestontour.net. Also, some blogs, ultimate fishing guides, newsletters, all sorts of things you can check over there. So if you're not signed up for that Best on Tour newsletter, go ahead and do that. Stay on top of the industry just like we are on top of it every single week. Dave, same time, same place. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys.